To be here. Welcome. This is amazing. So, oh my God, we have 2 days of content for you, more than 40 speakers, 3 tracks here and more virtually. And before we start, I want you actually to take a moment and talk to the person next to you and tell them what you hope to learn or achieve or get from these 2 days. And for the people at home, tell yourself one thing that you're hoping to get, from these next 2 days or from the sessions. Come on, one thing. Will make your wish come true. Great. Okay, not as many things. Come on, it's 2 days. Okay, so hopefully your wishes will come true. So this is exciting. We have 200 people here and online attending. This is the largest customer obsession, customer marketing event in the industry. And with the people coming in tomorrow, we're going to have more than 300 people. So this is amazing. So congrats and thank you all for coming here. Now, before I start my session, one last thing I want you to do, and this can all also do at home. Let's do this. Humor me. Come on, you can do it stronger, faster. You hear that? That's the sound of change. That's the sound of a stampede, because this is a movement. I'm going to talk about this movement now. Customer marketing has been the third fastest growing position in the last 5 years based on LinkedIn research. Now, anybody know what were the first two? Yeah, you knew that. Yeah, you're right. Vaccine specialist, number 1. We can't beat those. Inclusion and diversity, number 2. Amazing trend. Customer marketing, trend number 3. And why is it spiking so much? Why is this the fastest growing position specifically in marketing? And the answer is because companies who are customer obsessed, companies who leverage customer marketing, outperform other companies on any metric. And there's a reason for that. Customer marketing and being customer obsessed creates a framework for several things that influence growth and revenue. It's a framework to help adoption. It's a framework to help expansion, upsell, loyalty, advocacy, onboarding, retention, growth. And this is interesting. Forrester research, they asked CMOs about things they want to see in their dashboards. I don't know how many of you have seen CMO dashboards, but I was very surprised at some of these things. CMOs looking at things like upsell, retention revenue, customer lifetime value. Advocacy is in there as well, but the money, the revenue-oriented elements are way higher up. They're even higher up than something that I would expect, customer acquisition costs, which I would think most CMOs would look at first. So if CMOs are starting to look at these types of metrics now, right? And we've talked about how companies that do customer marketing outperform other companies that don't, and customers, because they're customer obsessed. What does this tell us? Well, kind of, if you're looking for a sign, this is it. Companies who are customer obsessed have 3x higher revenue growth, have 3x higher profitability, they have 3x better retention, and they have 2x, this is interesting, better employee engagement. This is all based on Forrester research, but this tells us that being customer obsessed is great for your company, great for your customers, great for your employees. So if it's all great, what's the problem? There are a few challenges, there are a few problems. First of all, when companies were asked, what are those challenges in customer marketing? The first one, which I think a lot of you would relate to, is unable to connect to our activities into business impact. 50% of them can't connect their activities to business impact, 50% of you. That's important because we just talked about those CMOs metrics, and we just talked about how obsession and customer marketing influences company goals and revenue, but we can't make the connection, right? And then we can't, a lot of them also mentioned that there are overlapping roles and functions, and we all know that, hey, is this us or customer success? Is this us or sales? Is this us or community, right? Then the last thing, but I think a lot of you that are in the practice will resonate with that, is that a lot of time, whether it's your peers from other functions in the company or leadership, don't exactly understand what the customer marketing people do. So what is it exactly that you do? Your customer stories, right? Got that. So, we understand that there's a big impact and influence, but we also understand there are big challenges. And that's why I believe that we're heading for a big maturity model in the industry. So we started with advocacy, and it's been around forever. I guess people in the Bible, when they wanted to buy sheep, they probably asked somebody who has the best sheep out there, right? But but when you look at today, like, advocacy is evolving, and a lot of us, 10 years ago, we had this title advocacy. Now we have more than 15,000 people in B2B and about 45,000 people in B2C that have this title, customer marketing. We even have amazing titles like customer marketing, upsell, retention, adoption, onboarding, so subtitles. Very interesting evolution of the market. But I think where the market is really going, and that's what we're going to talk about, is what we call customer-led growth. So that ties customer advocacy, customer marketing to that growth, to that revenue part of it. And it's an evolution. Customer marketing teams are becoming the bridge internally, right? So now they're working with sales, how always have been, CS, sometimes yes, sometimes no, education, community, product, and so many other teams. Think about marketing teams, your CMO, your marketers. Do they market for the product team? Do they market for CS? Well, in HubSpot, they have a title called Customer Success Marketing, and guess where that person lives? Under customer marketing. So marketing and customer marketing would start marketing for the entire organization. But also externally, they're building new bridges. They're now going to, customer marketing is now growing and developing into community marketing, partner marketing, we see that. And of course, customers at large and not just those, that pinnacle of advocates. That's where this is all moving to. So being customer obsessed, we need to have a new mindset, I think. We need to go beyond advocacy and think about the larger umbrella, the larger vision of customer marketing. We need to think not just on one program, but multiple programs, multiple activities that can run with customers across their life cycle. We need to think not just of number of advocates, but of revenue influence. We talked how important that is to your organizations and to buyers. We have to tie that all the time. We need to think about not just serving the sales team with their reference request or content, but serving the entire organization through customers. I always have this thing where companies say, yeah, we have a customer advisory board. And I say, cool, how many do you have? And they said, well, one for the CEO, once or twice a year. Well, why? Why not have a customer advisory board for the product team that they can talk to? Customer advisory board for the customer success team that they can, help them with services. Customer advisory board for education that can help you build your onboarding and enablement. Customer advisory board for your products, and so on and so forth. Why not infuse customers in every department in the organization, in everything, in the way you work, and that's being customer obsessed. And it also means moving from just talking about those advocates, which are always amazing and we always want them and we're going to always have them and elevate them, but to talking about the entire customer base and what we can do with them. So it's kind of moving from CMA, customer marketing advocacy, to CLG, customer-led growth, I believe is a lot we're going to talk about. And with that movement, we have some announcements of our own. So I don't know if you've noticed, but there were a few people who were funny shirts. So we're announcing a new name, a new brand. No more Crowdvocate. We're now Base. And the reason the reason we changed our name is because this is about the customer base. This is an industry movement. This is a change that is relevant for the entire industry, but also for us to understand that we want to engage the entire customer base and not just advocates, so Crowdvocate. Also, everybody had to say Crowdvocate and all those funny things, so enough with that. But if you notice, maybe there's a little heart here because companies should have customers at the heart of their business. We as customer marketers should remember that the customers are the heart of the business. Customer marketers are the quarterbacks, right, of that, and we'll talk about it. But there's also, the be here, then there's also these little shapes and dynamic because, again, this is a dynamic change in the industry. Customer marketing. HubSpot had a team of 3 4 years ago. They have a team of more than 100 now for everything they're doing. That's including community and all that, and Lori will talk about it later today. But, Gong had a team of 0 and then 1 2 years ago, and now they have a team of 5, and so on and so forth. We're seeing all the companies grow so fast in this industry because of this change, and we'll talk about that. We have a few more announcements, by the way. So first of all, we're announcing $15 million of funding to support this industry. Thank you. We're announcing more than 100,000 users in more than 105 countries on our platform. Thank you. And we're also focusing on a lot of new things such as integrations because remember, being a customer advocacy and customer-based platform means integrating with the other departments. So it's integrating with the other systems, their customer success systems, your CRM, your communities, your education platforms, your support, your knowledge base, and so on. We're also announcing us, SOC 2 Type 2, and that's important because in this industry, we need to mature to be a better secure platform so that other teams and IT believe in, the way that we engage customers in a mature but also secure manner, and this is the most secure platform in the industry. And we're also announcing the Customer-Led Growth Fund, and I'll talk about that for a sec. So this is for all of you. Because we're talking about this education, this movement, this possibility to share knowledge and explain what exactly you're doing. If you're doing an internal lunch and learn, pizza, beer, whatever, with your coworkers, with other people in this industry, just want to do a meetup in your hometown somewhere in Minnesota or whatnot, we've got your back. We'll support you with a fund to have that activity. You don't have to ask it from your CMO or from your organization. If they're supported, that's great, super happy. If not, we've got your back because we want to help you grow your own presence, but also your ability to share the word. So, thank you. So let's go back to the evolution. So we're talking about new values that we need to share with our companies and new values that we need to align to with our companies. New impact that they expect. New outcomes and KPIs, not just advocacy or number of references. New team and structure in organizations. And I'm going to give you some examples of those KPIs and outcomes that some of the companies are now looking at. So we spoke about HubSpot, and they see 55% higher retention in companies in their programs versus the one that are not. Notice that I'm talking about retention, not advocates, not other numbers, retention. Gong, they created a North Star that has 3 pillars, elements, renewal and adoption, right? Expansion and growth, and advocacy. All 3 are amazing and important, but look at that. Customer marketing teams have new remit, new type of roles. HubSpot will talk about their goals and ideals in the sessions that both Lori and Rodrigo have. Jane from Gong will be here tomorrow to share this, and also Udi, the CMO of Gong, at the end of tomorrow. Then Sendoso has seen 40% higher utilization of customers in their programs versus not. So utilization is another word for adoption of their tool, of their sending in their case. Again, we're not talking advocacy, we're talking utilization, which is something that the entire organization is interested in. And ProfitSolve has seen 48% conversion on things like referrals that create 20% higher ROI. Notice that all these KPIs, all these outcomes, all these metrics are not the classic metrics around like how many advocates do I have, how many customer stories have I done, how many salespeople have requested a reference, and so on and so forth. All of those are important and interesting for us to understand the vitality of the business and that everything is working well, but they're not as interesting for the organization to understand the impact. This is what is interesting for the organization to understand the impact. And we kind of need to play both grounds. We need to know our KPIs. We need to know both the lagging and the leading indicators. But this is what organizations care about. So the way to think about it is that customer-led growth influences all 3 pillars of revenue in SaaS companies and in companies in general, and B2B companies. First of all, of course, where we all came from and started from, acquisitions, through references, advocacy, reviews, whatnot. 70% of B2B businesses touch advocacy one way or another, right? It could be a review, it could be a customer story, it could be a quote, it could be a reference call, it could be a recorded video, it doesn't matter. They'll see it, they'll touch it, it will help you close the deal. Great, that important, that's acquisition. But acquisition only 30% in average of companies' revenues. The next 70% are around 20% of that is growth, so upsell, cross-sell, expansion, and 50% or more is retention. And that's where we want to influence as well. So upsell and expansion, we've seen when companies start running upsell and expansion campaigns through customer marketing to support the work that CS does or sales does. It's not instead of any other organization. CS or sales will do the depth, the relationship work. Customer marketing will do the breadth, the campaigns, the scale of having those funnels and getting people through those journeys that eventually create expansion. One of the sessions that you'll have later today, Biran is going to talk about the connection between ABM and expansion marketing. Think about, we all heard, or most of us know ABM, account-based marketing, but what about taking that notion of account-based marketing and running those campaigns internally? I'm already inside, let's take the example of one department of Bank of America. I don't want to go out. I actually want to stay in Bank of America and just make my own champions run an ABM campaign to another department inside Bank of America. That's expansion within your own companies through your champions, through your advocates. So that's growth through advocacy, through customer marketing and upsell campaigns. And then the last thing is retention marketing. We talked about so many organizations that can show that when companies are constantly engaged and in your programs, retention is high. And it really makes sense. If you keep them educated, if you keep them coming to your events, if you keep them excited about the brand, if you give them a way to talk when they have issues and solve for those, well, they're more likely to retain, and the proof is there. So this is why, I know how many of you know Saster, Jason Mankin. This is why he's talking about, that most companies are probably not doing enough customer marketing. And it's true, most companies have small budgets, small teams for customer marketing. We estimate that to be about, the customer lifecycle marketing, we estimate it to be anywhere between 10 to 20% of the marketing budget these days, or Forrester estimates that. Forrester estimates it to be 50-50 within 3 to 5 years, and then move to actually more and more shift towards lifecycle and customer marketing versus demand gen in the next 10 years. I'm hoping that will happen. I don't know how fast and how big, but I definitely know that that's the trend. CMOs, CEOs understand that they have to invest in lifecycle marketing. Because of this, half of Zendesk growth comes from their customer base. It's just that if half of your growth comes from your customer base, if more than half of your revenue comes from your customer base, you need to market to the customer base, not just to prospects. So how can you do that? Well, first of all, how many of you are starters, like first time in the role, first time in the program? Raise of hands. Okay, half about. So for those of you, there's a little caveat over there. Everything that I'm going to say, just remember, start small, right? Kind of crawl, walk, run. Start with maybe 1 or 2 programs and make sure that you have for them 1 to 3 KPIs that matter to the organization. So just for example, if it's a reference program, we just want to make sure that we tie it somehow to revenue and show that and show how we influence sales. If it's an adoption or onboarding program, we want to show how that created better onboarding created better adoption that ended with more customers retaining and satisfied and whatnot. So tie it to other organization metrics. But let's talk in general. So first of all, you want to set your customer marketing goals to align with the company goals. And that was what I was mentioning. You have to make sure that if your company now cares about adoption because there's some kind of issue with adoption, with onboarding, make sure that customer marketing supports that. And you support the training team and customer success team, but you support that company org. If your company now has a goal on upsell or expansion, make sure that you support that. You want to make sure that your customer marketing programs support what's important for the organization and is aligned with that. That's number 1. Number 2, you want to coordinate with the entire team about lifecycle engagement and customer marketing, because you don't want to have product sending a message to the customer with some questions or a survey, and then 2 days after, customer success kind of asking the same question or sending something else, and then customer marketing follow up 2 or 3 days after that with something similar. So you definitely want to make sure that everybody knows, and again, we gave that HubSpot example where everybody knows that the messaging, it doesn't matter if it's product team, sales team, customer success teams or whatnot, it goes through the customer marketing team. There's one pipe, one channel of messaging to the customer, one channel I'm listening back. The customers have a unique experience that is cohesive, and so do the internal teams. So that's very important to align with them and tell them, if you want something from the customers, let's do it this way. Then we talked about measuring outcomes, right? So whether it's revenue influence, business KPIs, you have to know the numbers. Whether you use a tool or you do it on a spreadsheet, it doesn't matter right now. But you have to be able to show those outcomes. And tell the management team, hey, this is how we influence revenue. This is how we influence retention. This is how we influence adoption. This is how we influence new sales versus recurring or versus upsell and so on and so forth. And then we talked about the experience. And this is important because if you create a simple and cohesive experience internally, so when marketing teams like PR, they need an analyst, they want somebody to speak at your event or whatnot, when they have a way to tap into customers, when product teams have a way to tap into customers, when sales, so when you create a bit of more transparency and more confidence in the internal teams that they can access customers based on what customers are willing to do and when they're willing to do it and so on, but they can access customers and leverage them, you create more trust and they will then collaborate with you better. So you have to give them that transparency and that kind of cohesive experience. I know a lot of customer marketing teams are very protective of their customers. I understand that. Same way that customer success teams are very protective of their customers. I understand that as well. But we also need to understand that the more we kind of close and protect our customers in many ways, the harder it's going to be for other internal teams to come to us when they actually need something. So it's kind of a two-way street that we need to always balance act. Then you want to create a cohesive experience for your customers themselves, like we talked about, and not have different teams reach out to them with different things and not track that. And lastly, you really want to have, like, you know, a way to look at data and be data-driven. And this is complicated, but think of the amounts of data that organizations have. You know data from your community, you know data from your courses in education, you know data from your customer success platform and tickets they've opened. Of course, you have CRM data. You know if they come or don't come to your events or log online. You have a lot of data about your customers. Why aren't you leveraging that data to make better decisions and better engagement based on that, right? So that's kind of the way to start building a different customer marketing and customer growth framework. And here are some examples of steps. So like we said, first, try to collect the data and have transparency on their journeys. And just to explain, there's more than an average 5 to 10 tools that every company have. You have your support tool, be it, you know, let's say Zendesk. Then you have your knowledge base, Confluence or whatnot. Then you have your community, inside it, Chorus, and so on and so forth. Then you have your education platform like Docebo or Skilljar or whatnot. Then you have your events, Zoom, Hopin, Bizzabo, so on, and so on and so on. So many different touch points for customers. How do you know who's where, when, are they engaged or not? If they stopped using the product, maybe they're still active in the community, maybe they're still in our events. What does that tell us? So you first want to lead with data. Then you want to be able to kind of use that data to take decisions on an account. Okay, one person in that account is less active, but the other people are still active. We're good. We can still leverage that account. Maybe we need to find different champions for different things. Maybe they're not interested in being advocates, but we can still collaborate with them on other stuff, right? Then activate customers in their journey. Well, if they're in your education platform, why not they just finished a course? Why not just talk to them there, right? Pop up there and say, hey, amazing that you just did that course. Why don't you go write a review? Or why don't you tell us how it was so we can improve it, right? Or if they're in your community and they're solving for others, they're typing in and they say, yeah, you can use the product this way and you can do that and all this stuff. Well, why not leverage them? They're expert, there's pros. Let's have them talk to product teams. Let's have them influence others. And then, of course, you want to measure. So, and again, you don't have to use a platform to do it, but you definitely want to be able to have these steps. So think of customer-led growth when you think about customer marketing and advocacy, and always have that framework. Always think of all the internal clients, sales with their requests for sales support and content and whatnot, customer success with the help they need in getting cabs and user groups and upsell and etc. Product teams that may want their own user groups and product feedback and ideation and beta users and so on and so forth. And your own marketing team that kind of needs your help to get advocates to speak with analysts and PR, and they need people to do event speaking and so on and so forth. And even content, like when you think of your new messaging, you're rolling out a new product, who's going to give you the best messaging for that? Your customers. So these are all your internal users, but you know, think how customer marketing with those layers of advocacy and customer marketing and lifecycle engagement and marketing can support all those different internal organizations and kind of create redesign the whole notion of customer engagement. And that's, I mean, what I hopefully you will learn today, whether it's from single and separate programs or through everything that we're going to share. But keep that CLG, that customer-led growth, that how does it all tie to revenue? How do I interact with more internal departments in my organization? How do I influence more of the customer journey? How do we engage more customers? Think of a bigger vision, right? And with that, I will set you off for amazing 2 days. A lot of great content. You'll see on your app, there's 3 sessions, and again, virtual one as well. There's one that we call build, one that we call scale, and then the CMO session. You're invited to switch between them. You'll have time. They all take place downstairs. And really, don't worry if you're missing something. It's all recorded. You can look at it later on. You'll have access. All the content is going to be there for you. Amazing speakers, amazing content. Enjoy it, leverage it. And one last thing, because the markets are unstable right now, so I would say when everything we're talking about on customer-led growth ties into that. Customer marketing had a big spike with COVID, and there was a reason for that. All the companies were thinking, hey, you know, nobody's talking to anybody, nobody's meeting, we're not going to get new customers. Well, let's at least focus on our existing customer base. Same thing is going to happen now. When markets are unstable and uncertain, one of the things you're going to see is the same thing. You're going to see more and more CEOs and CMOs saying, okay, well, you know, our customer base is our base for our source for stability, for profitability, for growth. Let's double down on them. So even in these uncertain times, customer marketing, customer growth is the way forward evermore. And with that, I want to thank you so much for coming here. And I hope you're going to have a lot of knowledge sharing, a lot of fun time. We're going to have a party today. And that you're also going to come out with that thing that you started with where you wish that you would learn. Hopefully your wish will come true and a few more. So thank you so much. Excited to have you. And with that, I will say goodbye, and I will invite Laura from GoDaddy, who is now the GM of International, but she's going to talk about previous roles where she actually talked about the customer experience. So thank you so much.